And we are live. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little bit late because Google Hangout, my computer, voice meter, and everything else was turned against me, so I couldn't get the bloody sound to work. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little bit late because not so much Google Hangout, my computer as well. So that should be fixed as well. See, everything is messy on my side today. It's beyond. Anyway, today's Hangout, I was thinking about talking about what is culture, and more to the point, is it or is it not okay to have pride in your heritage? Now, obviously, this is partly because of a video Jon the Bereaved made last week, the last few days, which I thought was a really good one. I linked it. I hope you had taken the time to watch it. And I have Jon here. So I'm going to give the first speech to Jon. Jon, what kind of prompted you to make that video?
You did, you bugger. You know that.
Hey, come on, man. That's a cop out. Come on.
Well, no. There was a video by the Britisher 5 months ago, and he talked about culture in what is such a stereotypical way. Ballet, classical music, sculpture, fine painting. And I'm like, that's not culture. And so I thought I would address other parts of culture.
Well, yeah, obviously. And you were completely correct to do so, because a lot of things are culture.
Which was, I mean, I only picked on little bits, things that I like, because the whole point is to say, well, we can all like what we like and we should never feel bad about it.
Yeah, true that. But that's the thing, though. So this is something I was hoping to address. Are we justified in feeling pride in our heritage, or are we justified in being berated for our heritage?
Well, if you have one, you should have the other. That was my position. It didn't come out of thin air. It came out of all the nonsense coming out of, students going, white people have no culture, and that's cultural appropriation. And, how dare those white people cook Mexican food in Portland or wherever it was?
Well, I like the response from Crusader Soul. The Dutch invented liberalism, so I'm not proud. Well, I'm not really sure if the Dutch invented liberalism, even though the liberal movement, and I'm talking about real liberalism, not the snowflake kind that we are having now, isn't specific Dutch, German, English, or France. This is kind of funny. This is something a lot of people seem to misunderstand. Liberalism is a West European thing. Italy, for example, had parts in that as well, as did Greece. It's a cultural thing that happened in Europe. But every country had something that they contributed.
Yeah. Can I just address something Marcel said in the comment?
Yeah, sure.
Because he says, I thought you could only be proud of your own accomplishments. In fact, I quite agree. And I specifically addressed that point at the start of my video and said it's not pride, it's appreciation.
Fair point. Yeah. Fair point.
Because pride is a very loaded word, even though it has multiple meanings.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you've used pride in the name of the video, but I think I'd call my video something like in praise of, as opposed to I'm proud of.
Wouldn't be a word like in recognition then be a better word?
Well, I was praising it because I think it's wonderful. So
no, fair enough. Not blaming you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just I'm just devil's advocate and all that.
I know, but I specifically did address that point that yes, I agree with Marcel about pride and one's accomplishments as opposed to those of others.
Mm-hmm. So Real Raven, what's your take on all this?
Oh, hold on. I need to unmute myself. Sorry.
We'll hear you.
Am I muted?
No.
We can hear you. You're just very soft.
Okay. I don't know. I think that talking in culture talking in generalities kind of bores me. I like when it gets to the more concrete discussions. You know, like okay, if kimonos are cultural appropriation, or you know, white people singing rap music. That sort of thing.
Well,
but
okay.
To me personally, it's not a contentious thing. To me, culture is this.
Well,
you know, if you play the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, who is basically the pinnacle of the Baroque music.
Yeah,
that's basically something that was sent out. A Glenn Gould recording of that was sent out into space in a capsule for the aliens to see, you know, and that to me encapsulates culture. No matter how many Egyptian statues Muslims tear down or whatever, you know, that to me is like eternal, you know, culture.
True that.
This is
I'm rambling.
Is this working?
That's just something, you know. If people say, I'm echoing now. If people say that white people have no culture, then I can only say John Sebastian Bach, bitch, and also you know that blues and that a lot of the music that you think you have invented comes from Western classical tradition, and then that the classical tradition, the string orchestra, actually comes from Africa. You know, so it's a constant give and take, and without that, if you stop that, then culture will stop. Very simple.
Well,
without that, you know, borrowing and copying stuff, you know, even samples, a whole genre of music, rap, wouldn't work without cultural appropriation. Everything's based on recycling ideas of something that was there before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
another point
I
touched on.
I mean, with music alone, I'm very educated on that. You know, I can basically whoop anybody's arse if they, because you know I can give you so many examples. You know, it's ridiculous. You know.
But yeah, no, this is kind of funny because this is also something I wanted to address, but I'll get there later. Smirkus, I'm going to give Alicia first, and then I'm going to ask you. I hope you don't mind. Alicia,
what women first?
Indeed. What do you think culture is?
What do I think culture is?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. Sorry, I was mutating. I think culture is just the shared values of the community. Thus, I think that you can and should have pride when pride is deserved. Like if you live in a community that the shared cultural values is to, you know, get together once a week to have a family picnic, that would be worth having pride over. And culture is always, you know, changing and shifting. And so, yeah, I think it's good to be proud of your culture. I love the culture of Utah, whereas some people really, really hate it, but it's really family oriented. We keep everything clean. We volunteer a lot. We try to help each other out as much. You know, we're not afraid on the street. We say howdy when we walk by people. And I think all of those little things in collection are culture. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, okay. But you're correct, because all these things are culture as well. It's how people treat each other, how people look towards each other, and how people try to present themselves to other people. So yeah, this is also culture. Anyway, Smirkus, we've had a lot to say already. Anything to add? Yeah, you do. Come on, you do.
Well, I didn't follow anything up until Real Raven's point because I was dicking around with the phone. So Well, what's the question, anyways?
What do we have a right to say that people should or should not have pride in their culture? And are there things that you, for example, say, okay, these are things I feel we should or should not appreciate? It's a slightly different question than the rest of them had, but
That's a good question. Holy crap. I don't know. I guess I agree with what Alicia said, at least. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Why? Are you in Utah as well?
No, but it's all the little things that make up like a community or the whole fucking Western world, maybe even.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where do you come from? I mean, what specific thing? What's specific to your culture? What do you remember? Is it something maybe you would like events you would have went to with your families or whatever, or done?
Well, I'm a Dutchie, like most of you know, and we always had 4th of May, the remembering of the dead of World War II, and then the next day, Freedom Festival. Mm-hmm. Which is awfully weird considering all the gates surrounding all the freedom festivals, but
That is a point someone made a few years ago. How can you claim these are celebrations of liberty and freedom when every big one you have to buy your way in and they're gated off?
Well, in our town, you don't really have to buy yourself in, but there are guards that make sure you don't fucking take any of your yummy drugs inside and shit.
Which is understandable, I guess, but it's also a little bit double because, are you really talking about freedom? But, okay.
Can I ask a question? Is there something exclusionary, though, about culture? Why is there this idea that it's something to be exclusionary? I thought about it while you guys were talking for a while.
Now that's a very good question.
I have an idea, on this, and I think part of the culture is that you kind of earn it. It's not so much, and you don't earn it by hedge fencing it, if you know what I mean. You earn it by practicing it. So in the realm of music, it's actually you earn it by practicing classical pieces, on the piano. So you kind of claim that in the realm of cooking, let's say, or like food, you earn it by preparing meals. In the realm of, let's say, celebrating feasts, you earn it by doing that regularly every year. You stick to it, right?
I understand what you mean, but you have a little limited view of what culture all can be.
And perspective as well, because you're only doing it from the cultural provider, whereas most of us mostly consume culture.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question in regards to that? Because I do like where he's going with that. I think that the whole idea is, when you think about it, there are certain groups, right? And we could just explain it as far as high school goes, where it is part of their culture to exclude everybody else. And I sometimes believe that's where the clash of the cultures come, because of the exclusionary factors of it. Like an example is, it used to be in Utah, if you're a Mormon and you're excommunicated from the church, then any other Mormon is not allowed to do business with you. So you're excluded and banned from your own community. So that's how I think the whole culture wars started happening, is because of in-group preferences and gang-like mentality. And somehow over the years that has been morphed to flipping to the other side, where it's saying, well, no, you can't be part of, the Mormons' cookies and milks. That's cultural appropriation. Right?
But how do you create a really high culture by refining it in a group? Like how do you create let's say the school of Gothic architecture.
We're not talking about high culture exclusively.
No, I'm talking about how you create culture. I'm not talking about hedonistic consumption. I'm talking about, yeah, I mean, at the moment we're using up culture that was given to us by our ancestors, but are we creating new things? You know?
No.
The guys who create new things, they put a lot of time into it.
Real Raven, one moment, because you make your first claim is we're using up, but are we using it up? Is it something that disappears after we used a certain amount of it?
What I'm saying is that I'm just saying that John's argument is it's all the same. It's
all the same. I'm saying that the narrow definition of culture, the one you adopted, is the very one I made my video in response to, because I think culture is much wider than that, and that it is in a very elitist perspective to say, oh, culture's people playing Bach. Fine, it's also a punk band down the pub.
Yeah. But even that's something that's also refined, you know. Punk is not, it's not something like you just necessarily borrow, you know. You know when the punk band is fake, you know.
I feel you're missing the point, Real Raven, because what John said is it can be different things, and if we then bring back what Alicia said, interaction between humans is also culture, and that was her example.
Oh, and then there's religion, which is highly exclusive.
But you don't.
Okay, I have a simple question. What makes a Chinese dish, even if a European or let's say an Italian makes a Chinese dish, what makes a Chinese dish taste Chinese?
Dutch cuisine.
That's my question to you, because you know when you blur everything and say.
I want to answer that point. In the UK, the national dish is an Indian dish.
Correct. What?
Invented in Glasgow.
Yeah, what's that? Haggis.
You can't get
chicken masala.
Yeah,
it's
which you can't get in
British dish, yet it is firmly in the canon of Indian cuisine, and it's Indian restaurants who make and serve it.
But you can't get it in India.
Who invented
it in India?
Okay, so what made it masala? What made the chicken masala?
It was just a name.
What makes a chair a
what
chair?
makes it specifically masala? It's obviously not just a fried chicken or a baked chicken.
Yeah,
there's certain ingredients in it.
Real Raven, what makes a chair a chair?
No, I'm not talking about a chair. I'm talking about a dentist chair. I'm talking about a car chair, a gamer's chair.
Matter.
Chicken masala is not chicken.
It doesn't
chicken
matter.
Masala is chicken with something added.
Matter.
No, it does matter, because John. No, you just blur the lines all the time, blurring it until there's only grey left, right? John picked an example. I'm addressing the example. Chicken masala. What makes the chicken masala? What makes it masala? Yeah, there must be something that makes it masala. It's not just I just name it masala, right? There are certain spices in it.
It is not possible to actually assert that with any certainty.
Well, you must have an idea. Otherwise, if you
all I know is that this dish, it's been dubbed, not by me, but it's a term that has been attached to it, the British national dish.
Okay. Let's make it simpler. You go to a restaurant, you order chicken masala. What do you expect?
What do I expect?
Yeah, what do you expect? Like, do you expect just a chicken with fries with salt on it?
No, it's a dish with a recipe. It's a creamy sauce.
Okay, and what does the creamy sauce taste of? It's full of pepper and wine, is it?
No, it's actually sort of almondy and quite sweet.
All right. So we're getting somewhere. So it's almondy. Is there curry in it?
Curry? There is no such thing as curry.
Okay. Is there cumin in it?
I could not tell you what's in it.
Okay, you couldn't tell me what's in it, but it tastes Asian to you.
I would not say it tastes Asian.
It tastes.
All I'm telling you is it's invented in Glasgow and served solely in Indian restaurants.
Yeah. Not in India, by the way.
But not in
Yeah,
India.
that's okay. That's okay, but it uses
But
certain
then
spices.
you find what makes it Indian. Who knows? The Indian people who run the Indian restaurants have adopted the dish. They're quite happy with it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the same. It's the same with Chinese food in the Netherlands. We invented Chinese food. We have loads of Chinese restaurants that make Chinese food.
Yeah.
And if you ever get to the Netherlands, you should actually try it. It's pretty good. Don't get me wrong. But if you then go to China and you hope to find a dish like what you get here, you will not find it anywhere.
see, I wouldn't trust the British to cook any foreign meal properly anyway, because we went to a lot of Italian. Can I finish the thought? Sorry, can I finish that? The example, we have a lot of Italian restaurants, Italian restaurants that are manned by Italian people who speak Italian, you know, the Italian, and they make Italian dishes. And the first time I ordered, I was 14 years old, so that's a long, long time ago, a pasta dish in Britain. It was ravioli. A quarter of the plate was ravioli, a quarter was peas, and half of it was French fries. and that is not the Italian food to me.
One bad anecdote does not a nation make.
True that too as well.
Yeah, and just an example, you know, the British have used to
if I'm
have
wrong.
a nasty habit of adding fries to everything.
And trust me, there were Italian-run Italian restaurants in Britain
That did the
when
same thing.
I was that age.
That cater to the English taste.
No. Italian restaurant run by Italians serving
Well,
Italian.
yeah, you have them that make
You were
true
just lucky.
Italian dishes.
No, I
But
wasn't
you will-
lucky. You were unlucky.
Yeah, you were unlucky, mate.
Yeah, maybe.
You will also have restaurants where they will cater to the local cuisine by still adding part of their own flavor, but also adding part of the local cuisine. Because, and here is capitalism coming in, because it sells.
Yeah, I mean, we have a Chinese here in Dunmore, and they also do some of the like Irish dishes. You know, they do also burgers and stuff. Of course, I mean, I would never buy a burger there because what's the point?
Can you get chicken paws at your Chinese restaurant in your local?
No, unfortunately not.
Which is
Neither
a very-
chicken nor duck. But I do like, and you can't get choy either. You can't
No, not chicken or duck. Chicken feet.
Yeah, I know. No, unfortunately, no.
See, but that's typical Chinese.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So
And
that
you
was
can't
probably
get that
be
outside of China.
that would probably not fly in this market because there's not enough like
Monkey
native
brains.
like Chinese people.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, well, that's an African dish.
There's also one from Hong Kong.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't get monkey brains because you wouldn't even get monkeys here, so that'd be very hard to.
You can import anything. But the thing is, so what makes it culture? Everything is culture. This is I'm sorry that Carlos unfortunately couldn't be here because I think he would have loved this one. Everything that we do is culture.
Yeah.
So the way we write a book, well, that's obviously culture. Yeah, fair enough. But the way we read a book is also culture.
Well, everything's culture. So, like, let's say, if of course there is a culture to everything. You could say, okay, if I post stuff on Instagram, that's culture. That's the culture of Instagram. But it's really just, I don't know. It's not really going anywhere. You know, I mean, there is meme culture. There's memes. You know.
That's the problem with, for example, movements like postmodernism. This is why movements like postmodernism get so much traction, because they can claim certain things, but what they're saying isn't really wrong. It's just wrong for the wrong reasons.
I don't know how you jumped from culture to there, but I'll take your word on
Because
it.
everything is culture.
Everything's culture, so nothing's culture.
No, well, everything is culture. That doesn't mean nothing is culture, because if nothing is culture, nothing and everything can't be the same.
See, I mean, I think that if everything's culture, then nothing's culture. I mean, there must be more than more to it, you know. And I think that hold on, let me get to something. I mean, yes, you can go on in generalities and spout them, but I think it would be good if we had some definition like culture is actually forming patterns in this everything. So it's there is something to it that is repeated. So in Jon's example, if it's chicken masala, it's made everywhere by every restaurant that does a number of dishes, you know, that are standard dishes. So you get this pattern, this repeating pattern, you know. And I think that that's a really important element in culture, and that ring fencing partly comes from stuff that's kind of really difficult. Let's say sumo wrestling. Let's take an example, sumo wrestling, okay? So there's a certain pattern to the sumo wrestling that you have really, you have to keep a certain diet, and you have to stick to certain rules, and you have to dress a certain way. So there's a whole culture in order to carry out this sport, sumo wrestling, okay? And it's everybody knows, everybody has a picture in his mind when I say sumo wrestling, as everybody has a picture in his as a taste in his mouth when you say masala, if they've tasted it before, you know. They know it goes into a certain direction. They may not know exactly what spices are in it, but when you taste it, you know it. You know what I mean? So there is a pattern. There is I'm not saying high culture, only high culture is culture. It's just that's the culture I am interested in. I'm really interested in the good movies. I'm really interested in good music, you know. That's just me.
Even defining good is a problem.
Maybe.
I think.
I mean,
indeed.
you know, I like in movies, for instance, I find a movie good if there is a story arc, if there may be elements of surprises, if the actors go through a journey. I can give you a whole slew of definitions for good, Jon, you know. You may have different ones, you know. I mean, maybe to you it's just there's enough colors in it, you know.
Qualify that. I'm not saying
it's just, you know, you keep attacking or you keep not attacking, but putting in question certain
I have
words,
a reason, you know? I have a reason for questioning, because you just said good without qualification. And my whole point, when we discuss...
everybody understands that.
No, they don't.
No, that's the thing.
They don't. It's just...
And it certainly won't be the same as what I mean as good.
But that's okay.
Won't be the same as what anyone else means as good.
That doesn't matter.
Therefore, to say good movies... as if that's a foregone conclusion, what qualifies or what does not qualify.
No, but I mean, there's statistics. You can go on.
Be challenged, and no, popularity does not equate with quality.
Yeah, that's true as well. That's true as well. I mean, I did like
any way you want. Sorry.
Well, you know, I think that still you just take a more sophisticated kind of, more semantic kind of standpoint, which doesn't really get us anywhere. You know, it doesn't really.
Because my personally complex, and the problem with the SJW standpoint, which is what I'm opposing, is that I thought that's ad absurdum the whole point of culture, and this is black culture. Things like dreadlocks, or white people in Portland making Mexican food, and they get really upset about it. I'm not talking about a little upset about it, but really upset about it. And the point is,
but you're taking the wrong thing, don't you? I mean, you're taking the fact that they say it's black culture, and instead you should be attacking the fact that it shouldn't be shared. You know, culture has to be shared.
That is what we are attacking. I am giving you an example of what it is.
But what makes the problem? It's not the label that you say, oh, this is African culture.
I didn't say it was the label. I'm trying to lead you through an example. And the example is them screaming cultural appropriation.
But why? They don't... But the problem isn't... that they can identify that, let's say, wearing sombrero is something that Mexicans do. It's that they say that you're not allowed to do it because you're not Mexican.
Well, actually, they are doing that. They are telling you you're not allowed to wear a sombrero because that's something Mexicans do.
Yeah, but that's the second point. That's on top of you know, on top of the stereotype. It's they don't allow you to break the stereotype or to
but that's the whole thing.
caricature it.
But that's the whole thing. When we talk about culture, people have their own niches, what they think culture is, or whether you would call it high culture or not, or doesn't matter. People have their own ideas what culture is. Trust me. You're German. Do you like soccer?
What? Soccer?
Do you like soccer?
Yeah.
Yes. Football.
I'm not a huge fan, though. I'm not.
Okay, so you don't really care about it. You don't really care about it. Fair
except
enough.
Except when Germany goes into the World Cup, then I'll watch
because,
it.
Because
Bavaria.
Because you always win.
Well, that too. But for example, there are people who will tell you that they get real joy in watching certain top players play because they see a lot of art in that.
Okay.
So this in itself is culture.
Yeah, okay.
But there are also people who hate football, soccer, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you dislike something, again, is culture. And this unclarity that people experience makes it different.
I don't know if I mean, when you say you're creating groups based on like habits and patterns, that's just reaction. And yes, you could potentially build a culture on hating or loving a thing, you know, a fan culture, for instance. But I think that's a secondary kind of culture, you know. Before you can create the fan culture, you have to create the thing that you're a fan of. So that's where the actual culture is.
No, that's not true. You're definitely not understanding things then. I mean, yes.
I think culture has to do with creation, in my mind. It's creation.
Yes, but that's in your mind.
Okay, fine.
That doesn't.
So you say you could have culture without creation?
Culture is also being.
Most people don't create, but they're definitely part of a culture. How are you not going to be able to create and still be part of a culture if your definition is the right one?
Hold on, say it again. Yeah, I think there was a double negative in there, and I'm losing track.
Most people do not create, yet they are part of a culture.
Give me an example.
Okay, me. I can't play any musical instrument, but I like to hear it.
Okay. So
I'm still part of the musical culture.
So you're part of the musical culture by doing what exactly?
By
listening to music.
By listening to it, by sharing it with people.
Okay, so you are creating something. You're investing time. You're investing your lifetime. You're sharing it.
But I'm sharing, but I'm not creating.
That's also creation, right? You're sharing it. That's also creating. Sharing is creating.
If sharing is creating, then everything is creating, because then everything. Yeah, like
you're creating something.
Fairness, you know, if you create a fandom culture, or for example, the whole. How do you call these guys? Cosplayers. Yeah, they go to cosplay. Yeah, well, listen, they are sharing their own culture.
Well, but you have to admit,
it is a culture.
But if you want to be significant, let's say in the scale of time and space, you know, let's say 20 years ago, 20 years from now, you know, then you personally would probably not figure as part of the music listening environment, unless you were maybe part of a larger group that says, I know, Jon will come with the argument at popularity again, but what I'm saying is that you create a strong culture, a culture that survives for a long time. If there's many people doing that, sharing that, whatever, listening to it, doing it in a group, or whether they believe that they're part of a group or not, it doesn't matter, but they do it in unison. So they kind of carve out like a again, they carve out a structure in space-time by doing the same thing together, you know, by saying, oh, we all listen to this Beatles concert and then we scream like mad and run after them. You know, that's another culture, right? And that's still remembered 30, 40, 50 years after it's being documented.
I'm going to interrupt you. Alicia wants to say something, and you've been talking quite long.
Okay,
She's been waving and waving and waving. Go on, Alicia. What do you want to say?
Okay. I think we've actually proven why there's such a problem with culture, because it's too broad of a spectrum. And in the past, when we thought of culture, like the word culture, you would hear that person is cultured, thus they've learned the classics, they've learned to appreciate different things and the finer things. And when I say finer things, I mean like moving forward, right? Like this new structure and the appreciation of it. But what's happening now is that because it was such a broad definition and it couldn't be pinpointed, that you have the SJWs attacking every little thing that they think makes up culture, right? Such as the people in Washington State, I think, or Oregon, that got their burrito stand shut down because they were white, or because of all of the plays, right? All the plays that get shut down because a white person plays it, but it doesn't. But at the same time, they've now negated white people, so they can have, say, there's a play in Disneyland right now that is Frozen, and the lead character is from a Scandinavian country, but he's black. And if a white person were to complain, they would just say, well, white people don't have a culture, right? So everything has become political and crappy, and we're arguing back and forth over the semantics of it, when the real problem is, A, can you be proud of the past? And B, do you have the right to share and join in with other people's cultures? Whether it's... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think just one thought that occurred while you said that, that I think that what they do, they very strongly correlate culture with identity. So, and my question would be, can you have culture without identity?
Well, that's a great question. It's kind of like, I've put together like a Maj Podge video today because I'm being attacked by feminists again. And they're really angry at me. They're angry at me because I said that gender is a social construct was being put forth by the second wave feminists, when gender and sex has always been the same thing throughout history, right? That is the culture for over 250,000 years that we've been man and woman. That is our culture. And they're just stealing it and ripping it away from us. But at the same time, I'm arguing this feminist over the semantics of where it started. And then I just flat out told her it was actually started in communist Russia as a tactic to bring in socialism. And that I should have never said that. I should have just stuck with the second wave feminists, because now I'm being attacked because I am not part of their culture. I am seen as the enemy of their culture. Right? So, yeah, you can't have culture without identity, and that is true. Yeah. Maybe that's what culture is. What if culture is the group identity and what each individual brings to the collective of the group?
I'd love to hear Jon's opinion on this. Jon, can you have culture without identity?
What do you mean without identity?
I mean, is culture and identity, are they strongly intertwined? Do you need identity for culture?
I would suggest that most people throughout history, probably excepting the elites, never had the occasion or means to develop a strong sense of identity. But they still had culture.
Do you think so? Don't you think that people had way more sense of identity in the past than they have now?
No, I'm talking about the kind of identity I assumed you were implying.
No, I'm not implying a kind of identity. I'm just saying
Everyone has identity then, therefore the question becomes meaningless. I was trying to define it in a way that might actually be answerable to me.
No, I would say like, let's say 100 years back,
Even slaves have their own identity. Like, even if you're a slave, even if you were a slave, you still had your own identity, whether it was the slave that wanted to be a servant or a slave that wanted to escape. You still are you, right? You don't have to...
And you would be singing slave songs. I mean, slaves would sing slave songs. And, nobody else would sing them.
Well, think about the
Or
deep
make slave
South
food, I
in the
don't know.
United States, where they were allowed to go to Christian churches on Sunday, which was a day off, so that was good for them. But a way of them preserving their own religion and hiding it with the Christian religion, they invented a new religion. They invented voodoo, right? And it was a way of them still holding on to their identity, even though their identity had been robbed from them and they were forced into a new cultural
Yeah.
collective. Thus, they created a new sub
Yeah.
cultural identity.
That's another great point, Alicia. I think that a lot of cultures, or a lot of culture is born from subcultures. So we have like meme cultures. We have, you know, I have an awful echo. Somebody's using speakers here. Maybe mute yourselves if you're using speakers. That a lot of cultures come from subcultures. So, like, let's say the blues would have come from slave songs, you know. For instance, the blues is a whole genre. And to go back to John's example of the chicken masala, even when he brought the example, he pinned it down to English restaurants. So there is, I'm not saying there's an English identity.
Restaurants in England, not English restaurants.
Okay, sorry.
Indian restaurants in England.
That's a finer point.
No, but
that's what I meant.
It's a specific subcategory of restaurants in England.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I stand corrected.
That's fine.
But I think I understood you right anyway. That's what I meant. Restaurants geographically located in England or UK or whatever.
But you're talking about identity.
I'm talking about, you know, it's not because they're just geographically, they happen to be geographically in a certain place, but they were part of, like what you said, an English identity, culture, not identity, I don't know, but it's, you know, identity in the broadest sense is, okay, we are English and we like chicken masala. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing. You see, you talk about identity in that sense, and it's a massive discussion. It's been going on for decades. What actually is it even to say you're English or you're British? And we are. I mean, it's like we're 4 countries in one. So I'm English and I'm British, and someone could be Scottish and they're British, and that Scot would most definitely get insulted if you called him English.
Yeah.
And in England, I'm from the north, and I really don't like this southern culture.
Yeah.
So there is no clarity even amongst ourselves what we're talking about, and I know because that conversation goes on a lot.
Wasn't there like a bigger picture of what English culture is, and then the subcultures of the Scots, the Irish, the Welsh?
No, because the question is always being asked: what does it mean to be English? What is English culture?
Okay.
You know, I mean, this is an ongoing question because it doesn't have an answer. There are answers, but not an answer.
But it's especially difficult with you guys because the British or the English, right? It's such a, first of all, it's a very eccentric kind of bunch of people, and they're also very eclectic, which means they take a lot of elements from different other places and integrate them.
Where I'm from, there's a heavy Scandinavian influence to the extent that the local dialects are dialects, not accents. That is, they have words of Scandinavian origin in the language. And the Scots even more so. You know, there is so much fun posted to Glaswegian that nobody can understand a word they're saying. Because
I think that
to an extent, they are speaking a foreign language.
Yeah, I don't understand Liverpudlians either, and Yorkshire. I don't know that there's some accents.
Yeah, Yorkshire, that's me.
Yeah, no, there's one guy who lives down the road. I have to ask him again where he comes from, but he's so hard to understand. I have to tell him to understand say everything 3 or 4 times. It's just so weird. It's kind of lilting almost, you know. But I think that maybe one of the things that the English have is that they are so eclectic, that they picked from so many different cultures, you know. I certainly wouldn't say it's just like random people who were interviewed on British streets or English streets. What do you think makes a British? Yeah, it's just the password, nothing else. We're just all cookie cutter kind of pieces
the
of.
Lauren Southern video, you mean?
Yeah, it was her. But I think I've
saw
seen
that
that on
one.
other.
I
I've seen
thought
that
I
on
knew
other.
that one though. It was in. She
I
walked
think she
down
took
the
that from a
street.
different interview. You know what? I'm not even sure
Well, she did
whether.
several, but that one she did an interview specifically approaching people of
Yeah,
non-European descent.
yeah.
and
What does it
saying
mean
what-
to you to be British? Yeah.
Yeah. Now I
And,
thought that one. Also, there was a series. There's a German called Henning Weig, pardon the pronunciation, who's a comedian who's lived in Britain for a long time, and he did a couple of comic videos on Channel 4 called something like A Foreign Guide to British Culture.
Mm.
And, just poking fun at us from the point of view, and he just used lots of people from all around the world who were settled in Britain to poke fun at us. It was very funny.
Well, you know what?
sadly
Why
true.
don't we ask you? Why don't we ask you? To you personally, it doesn't matter whether to the rest of the world, but to you personally, apart from the bad food and the chicken masala,
We
what
don't
is
have bad
typically?
food. That is a lie. Slander, especially from a bloody German.
Hold on, we have way better food.
I'm sorry. Germans have better food.
Of course.
They at least have better beer.
The English just don't have no taste, so they can't recognize it.
Sauerkraut. Yes, other than sauerkraut and bratwurst. Bratwurst not even German because they took that from the Polish. So you've got sauerkraut, mate. That's it. I mean, okay, the Reinheitsgebot gave you lots of pilsners and beers.
Well,
the
sausages
options are
wouldn't
good,
be the
though.
first thing that would come to my mind if you want to turn the question around and ask me about the German
we're just
culture.
pulling your leg, mate.
No, it's fine. But you have to answer the question first, John.
Yeah.
So, what to you personally makes it something like? What's like to you a typical British kind of identitarian pastime or thing where you say, "Oh, I'm back
I'm
home,"
from Yorkshire. Everything outside the borders of Yorkshire is abroad, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, so you're even more tribal. So what makes
I'm a
you?
Yorkshire
Is it the
national.
Yorkshire pudding? Is it?
The Yorkshire pudding, yes, a dreadful dish, though I really like it. It is essentially a pancake cooked in the oven with meat fats so that it rises. But it is not. It was actually designed so that you had the Yorkshire pudding before the meat and it filled you up. So you only need a little bit of meat.
I find any kind of food that is described as a first function of the food, it fills you up. Highly suspicious.
Yeah, I mean it's flour, and
it fills you up.
it's just batter. It is so basic.
It reminds me of Louis de Finet. He played this really what's it called? Greedy kind of guy in this play by what's it? God. I only know the German name, but there's a French writer who wrote a lot of comedies, and Louis de Finet made one of those comedies about this really rich greedy guy, and he said the first course should be porridge, just loads of porridge, and stuff it into them, just loads, so that it fills them up, so they can't eat any other stuff anymore. He'd save a lot of money like that, It's just. I just had to think of that when you described. Apart from Yorkshire pudding, anything else?
No, I'm going to bring it back now because we are sidetracking a long way. The premise of this talk was going to be culture. Should we be proud of it or should we not be proud of it?
Oh, okay. I can answer that.
Isn't culture just a big amalgamation of all sorts of fucking tribalisms and customs and traditions passed down, and the ones that isn't agreeable with the larger part gets thrown out.
Yeah,
it sounds very dismissive to me, at least, if you look at art or you look at, let's say, architecture, let's say building houses or technology or music, then it takes a huge amount of effort to get to a high standard.
Yeah, can I elucidate on that, please, Real? One of the things I tried to point out in my video is you can look at culture as the art, and you can look at culture of the habit of creating the art, the culture of being artistic itself, of valuing the creative process, the performing of the art you create. Yeah. And I talked about this as an English person in relation to the period of Enlightenment inventors and scientists, and that there was a culture at that time of being scientific and inventing stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was talking about British culture in that sense and saying, yes, at that time there were, because I don't think it's quite anywhere like the same now, but at that time we had this great culture.
Don't we still have it?
Not in the same way, because it's been squashed by, so many other factors. It's very easy to have a culture of creation in virgin territory. We led the Industrial Revolution, so you had lots of need for new techniques, lots of need for new ways of doing things.
So can we then say, or can we basically claim that not all cultures are equal?
Oh, can I stop you here just for a second? Men, is that okay?
Yeah, go on.
Continue mansplaining in a minute. Just kidding. I'm kidding. I had to say it. Anyway, I was just thinking, because someone had a High Desert had posted that he more relates to his Southern culture than his German heritage. And I was thinking about how in Utah, it's really pushed to look at your genealogy, right? Mm-hmm. And so I have a family tree. My goal was, when I did my genealogy, to get back further than Jesus Christ to see if I could do it. And I did. I do. It's on my website. Well, I don't know if it is right now, but so I go all the way back to 2,000 years. And when you think about it, I don't feel connected to any of them, like none of them, because it's like the past. Even though they built the future for me, I just feel like a lot of shame looking at them. And I think maybe that's why we always argue about culture, because if you're proud of your cultural heritage, then that means you have to also be ashamed of it, right? So
yeah, if you dig too deep, Alicia, maybe you dug too deep. Maybe you should have stopped digging before you started to feel ashamed.
Well, no, so I traced here's where it started. I traced first, I got to the Salem witch trials, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of my ancestors lived. And the Salem witch trials, can I just tell you, this town was really small. That means my ancestors were burning witches and crushing people. And so you start there, but then at the same time, it also opens you up to learning about it, because I'm related to Longshanks. And the only thing I knew about Longshanks was from the movie Braveheart. And they totally misrepresented that, man. And so I think if we can tell everybody that if we could just focus on the positive aspects of our past culture and be proud of it, and then learn about the negative so that we don't repeat the mistakes of our fathers, right?
Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, you can look at it in a positive way as well, because you could say, oh, look, we've stopped doing these abhorrent things. After a brief period of maybe 10, 20 years where we burned witches or whatever, then we stopped doing it. So we actually got out of it. And I think you have to acknowledge that as a kid, if you see the growing up of a human a tribe or a society, or like a country society, and not identity, but the growing up of that as like a growing up of a human being, then you have a childhood and you make a lot of mistakes when you're a child. So you're hopefully pass through adolescence without killing yourself and then become an adult. And then you probably have some kind of moral fiber developed from the fact that you made mistakes in the past. That doesn't mean that you're rotten just because you were a child that lied. You know what I mean? You're not always a liar.
But the thing...
That was nice. That was really nice. I like that. You're not always the child that lied. That was good.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just want to say how great that was.
Yeah, but the thing is, if we look at what culture is, there is overarching culture, things that combine us all. But at the same time, what Smirka said a moment ago, culture is also, in a way, the definition of a group. It's a form of groupthink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
and
okay.
In itself, that's not a problem. It becomes a problem when people are trying to use culture to propagate groupthink, to create the identitarian politics that people are creating, to put groups against each other based on culture or groupthink.
That's two different things, right? That's two different things.
No,
you said first it's a problem to propagate groupthink, and then the second thing to put groups against each other. I think one doesn't necessitate the other. You can propagate. Yeah, I'm saying that it's not bad to propagate group things. You can say we think like hunters. We are hunters. We're hunting. We wear the red jackets and ride on horses and hunt the fox. That's the group think. It doesn't necessarily harm anybody else. It's only when you say, "Oh, you're non-hunters. You're scum." Yeah, that's the problem. This is not a necessary consequence. It's not a necessary consequence for me as a classical music player that I have to look down on pop musicians.
That is true. But this is how it's being used, and it can be used like that.
Abused.
Fair enough. It can be abused like that because of the way that culture in itself has become a narrative-driven part of society.
You know the primary abusers of these are often people who are not really part of that culture. They're not really deep in it. They're kind of insecure about it, because if you're really deep within a culture, then you're content with that and with what it creates. You don't need to use it as a weapon against others because you're in it, and you know the value of it, right? It's great. I'm in the rowing team of always take an example. I'm a skater. ice skating, whatever, and I'm really good at that. And I'm with all the other ice skaters. I don't need to make a war with other people because they're non-ice skaters. They can also become that if they want. It's
okay.
open.
I'm going to interrupt you, and I'm going to basically.
I'm done anyway.
I'm going to give power to the point I'm saying, based on what Lord of Darkness is saying in the chat. When Christians were attacked by Semitic and Turkish Arabs, they suddenly had a group identity that caused them to go together on the Crusades. Well, it wasn't suddenly. It took a few hundred years for them to do that, but they formed their group identity based on being attacked. And it's not their cause, or they didn't form it because they were being attacked, but the fact that they were attacked forced them to rethink their group. And this is where culture becomes problematic, and I like to use that word in this case, because a lot of people will attack people for cultural appropriation, for example, which in effect causes people to respond to that.
And we got the likes of Richard Spencer and stuff.
And yeah, in all fairness,
as a counter to it.
Nothing creates.
Sorry.
Go on.
I had a question about Spencer. Is he gay?
I don't know. I don't care.
No, I'm not saying not care. I'm not saying not care. I was just curious if anyone knew.
Because I don't know, but I don't think so. I think it's just a little bit camp.
It's unlikely because they are very homophobic.
Well, no, Spencer says he doesn't care about
He
gays.
doesn't care, but the group as a whole really, really does.
That's because they need to protect their genes, right?
No.
And can you protect your genes if your leader's not?
I mean, we know the history. I'll just say Night of the Long Knives and the SR Ernst Röhm and all that.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, but they're not Nazis. They're just national.
No, I'm just saying, but that inclination does not mean it's not attractive to certain people either.
Yeah.
How do you...
The real Nazis, like, so the real little Nazis running around still, they're like on the down low. And it's this...
Yeah. Except for the SJWs.
No, they're...
Sorry, go on.
No, I'm just saying, like, the real Nazis. Like,
yeah,
so
like the SJWs, I'm serious.
No, well, no,
the real
no.
Nazis are dead.
Okay, so maybe...
Yeah,
maybe
no shit. That's what I was going to say.
The people, okay, let me put it another way. The people that actually believe in eugenics and creating a master race
Same
are
people
on the down low and aren't attacking anyone. It is the SJWs and it is the Richard Spencer type group where they're doing this weird collective, have European nations unite under the same umbrella. And I'm like, well, why?
You know what just occurred to me? That the ones that you call the real Nazis, they try to do it via breeding, but the SJWs do it via sterilizing, by just killing off everything else that's different from them.
Well, so the present,
because they have the idea that if you have bad ideas or the wrong kind of the wrong kind of philosophy, then something is wrong with you in a virulent kind of way. You know, it's like bacteria; it needs to be sterilized out of your mind. That's left.
They think that anyone that doesn't think like them is a disease. So yeah, they are acting like Nazis, yes, but at the same time,
the othering they engage in leads to genocide.
I agree totally. I'm not saying that. I totally agree it. But what I'm trying to say is that every single collective group, and I think Modwain has talked about this before, that each group, if they get to a certain point, they can become the evil that they are fighting against. So it just goes back and forth. The SJWs are not Nazis. They're acting like Nazis. They're acting like fascistic jackasses, but they're
so were most Nazis at the time. That's the problem.
Well, that's a slightly different historical thing, though, because if we look at the First and Second World War, which the First World War was basically created by anarchism and Bolshevism, and the Second World War was a continuation.
Chest thumping.
Well, but that chest thumping was forced out because of the attacks being played out by the Bolsheviks and how do you call them?
Yeah, but the imperialist chest thumping was what created the ability of the war to happen.
No. Then you really misunderstood history, because it's the Bolsheviks and the anarchists that basically threatened an ally of the German Empire. The German Empire said, well, I mean, there are allies, we have to help them, and please don't let this get out of hand. And then the rest of Europe basically said, yeah, but we're going to let this out of hand.
No, but that you're starting in 1914. I'm talking about from 1900. Sorry.
Yeah, me too.
Can I address what Lord of Darkness just said? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay. So Lord of Darkness says the whole world works on genetic groups. Only whites are trying to deny it. Now, as I just want to clarify something. I've studied eugenics in depth. I love genetics. So let's call it what it is now. It's genetics, the genetic fields. And what is happening is that the only group of people that truly 100% practices eugenics or genetics are the women of this world. The women are the ones that are selecting who their mate is going to be based off of what they want their spawn to be. And the problem people are having is that when a so-called white woman decides that she wants to spawn a child from a different race, they're saying she's being anti-genetics, when in fact she is being genetics because she wants to form a new child that looks a particular way. This is done on purpose. So women are in fact...
But it's not only one way that issue occurs, because all cultural groups, Muslims, Hindus, black people, are equally, if not more, vociferous against their women mating outside the group.
Yeah, except that they are allowed to force their women to do it. We aren't.
No, I'm just saying, but it is a cultural, it is a general, more widespread cultural thing, not just what white people do.
That's how women are oppressed, I guess, in other places, because they don't get to practice eugenics. The tribe gets to practice eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you look at, for example, periods of war, then women tend to turn towards the men that are more effective at warfare. For example, if we take the Second World War again, women in occupied countries turned toward German men because survivability is better that way. There's more chance of survivability.
Yeah, now, obviously, for provision.
Yeah,
and your overlord can provide better than the oppressed, the conquered,
yes.
The winners.
Yes. Unfortunately, we see the same thing happening now, for example, in Europe, where you have large swaths of women turning to, they call themselves feminists, but they are in favor of probably the most misogynistic culture out there because they think they will win.
No, and also because the people of that culture are exhibiting the personality traits that women really appreciate, and not those that feminists have managed to squish amongst the native population.
That's true.
Yeah, that is also true. But the thing is, I mean, you have and you see a growth in yeah, I wouldn't call it right-wing rhetoric, but you see a growth in people no longer identifying themselves as left, because the rhetoric the left is pushing is so far away from what people actually think, feel, and hope for, that people kind of are left
lost
without choice.
Yeah, I know.
And this in itself is, by lack of better words, problematic. And here we see, I'm sorry, go on.
It's okay if I drop out early because I'm really tired. Had a long day.
That's okay, mate.
Thanks for having me anyway, and hogging the time. Welcome. It was very interesting.
Take care, Raven.
See you later,
Thanks,
mate.
Bye.
Yeah, see you. Good night. No, oh, darn, forgot the point now. No, I was just going to say that one of the problems with people who no longer wish to identify as left but are left or were left, and I say this as somebody who that applies to, is that they let themselves be identified as right, whereas they are not right. They're just not left.
Yeah, because the left now decides who is left and who is right, and everyone who is not as left as they are is obviously right. I mean, I know that 5 years ago I considered myself left. I can't consider myself left anymore. Because I can't agree with what people now call left.
Chris Rock made this joke in one of his specials going, nobody is all the way to the left or the right. There's some shit I'm liberal about, there's some shit I'm conservative about, and that's pretty much most of the people out there.
Yeah.
Well, in people, I would say you're correct. But if we look at politics, then people don't see that anymore. People are being basically forced into a dichotomy. You're left or you're right. That's it. Now, most people like ourselves, we like to stay more nuanced because the world is all about nuance. But I know for sure that there are people who try to block me because I'm not right enough or I'm not left enough. Now, I can only laugh when that happens. But it's in a way, it's a little bit weird because we are basically we're in the middle of a culture war by ourselves, by our own people, so to speak. We need to choose whether we go left or we need to choose whether we go right.
Or you're a filthy fence sitter.
Or we define a new position and give it a new name.
Well, and this is kind of what I've been trying to do whilst talking about being culturally cohesive. But yeah, we need to start a third group, and I'm surprised. I've really been trying to get to reach Sargon, which I obviously failed at on every point so far, because with his move of liberalism, he's basically trying to reignite an old system, and we don't need an old system. We need a new system. They call themselves left. They call themselves right. We call them idiots. Now, I'm not saying there are good points on the right or there are good points on the left, because there are. No one is completely false. So I'm not against everything the left says. I'm not against everything the right says. But on average, the problem is, I've said this in the past many times. There are plenty of philosophy out there. The true power of recognizing what philosophy is best is recognizing what philosophy is able to say, this is what I think, but I may be wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm generally anti-ideology and anti-philosophy for that reason, because I don't think that any single expression can truly reflect the complexities of reality.
Indeed. And this is the problem with the culture war, because the culture war.
I do think that philosophy should play way more of a part in our culture, though.
No, I'm not arguing against philosophers. I'm arguing against a philosophy.
Yeah.
But the point isn't the point of philosophy just what Modwain just said. It's like, hey, I might think this, you may think this. Doesn't mean we're both right or wrong.
There are philosophers that are like that.
Adopt them. People adopt them, and they adopt the cliff notes.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, everything else must be true because I've adopted this philosophy, and it derails thought and complexity.
People derive ideologies based on philosophy. Oh, yeah, but Nietzsche was great. True. Well, no, Nietzsche made a few good points. Yep. But Nietzsche was an idiot as well. So we shouldn't blindly follow everything Nietzsche said.
Kant, and then later Young.
Sorry, go on.
And then later Young.
Yeah, indeed. And Kant, they all made good points. Yeah, but at certain points, they were also real idiots. Because we're all humans. We all see the world from our own perspective. And we try to create a biggest a perspective as possible. This is the whole standing on shoulder of giants rhetoric used in the past. But funny enough, people will use that rhetoric when they're talking about science, but they don't use that rhetoric when they talk about culture and philosophy. But it's the same thing. We need to realize that we're not there yet.
Perhaps never will be.
Yeah, exactly. And recognizing we never will be is itself, to me, a positive statement.
Indeed. But when people start saying, no, no, this is the way to go, well, I might have ideas how we can best rule the world. I may have ideas, but that doesn't mean I'm correct. This is, for example, why I really have a problem when people start talking about, yeah, but we need an ethno-state. Because most countries in the world, except for the Western world, are ethno-states. If we look at Africa, most of it are ethno-states. If we look at the Middle East, most of them are ethno-states.
And when they're not, like
most
Rwanda,
of them,
look what happens.
yeah, most of them are ethno-states. But if we look in the Western world, well, you're not allowed to be an ethno-state because then you're a white supremacist. But this is stupidity. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we should have an ethno-state. I don't mind if people of color live in my state, but I want them to be part of my culture. If they come live here with their own culture, we can't form a nation.
I quite agree.
So
they want Sharia, they can fuck off.
I'd have to disagree with you there a little bit.
Okay, so explain to me how you think you can form a nation with someone who has a culture that is opposed of yours.
No, not necessarily that, but it's more like they should practice their culture behind their own doors.
No, even practicing it behind your own doors is going to be problematic.
It will in the long term.
You need a cultural cohesive state. That doesn't mean your culture and my culture has to be the same, but they have to be able to work together. For example, look at Great Britain. Yeah, Great Britain.
We've talked about that many times, and I do agree with you on that.
I'm going to say it anyway for the people who are listening.
You guys, I'm paying attention to the comments. I want to address Lord of Darkness again. Now, it's really important, trust me. Okay, so let's talk about Africa. Africa is an entire country, or a continent, right?
Continent, yeah.
Continent with many different countries inside of it. And as far as the Rwandan genocide, the whole thing was that the Hutu and Tutsis were actually the same people until an outside force came in and separated out the two groups based off of lighter skin and darker skin. And then it became a culture. So a culture was suddenly developed. And then socialism came marching in, as it does, this lovely socialist communist thing, infecting people with ideas that they were suddenly victims of oppression. And so then one side rose up against the other side because of communism and socialism, just like what's happening in South Africa has nothing to do with white people versus black people. It has to do with socialism and this Marxist ideology that has spread throughout all of Africa that is forcing one tribe against the other tribe. But mark my word, it has absolutely nothing to do with the color of skin. It has everything to do with political ideologies. And
okay,
because right now we have 16 active genocides happening, and almost all of them are based off of a political ideology known as socialism, which the Nazis were part of and the communists were part of, and that is all on the left. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to say it's not ethnicities. Fair enough. I'm not 100% agreeing with that, but I'm going to say that. But then we all agree that it's culture.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's the cultural Marxism.
But it's not just Marxism, though. Unfortunately, Islam is also a very strong participant in this. But yeah, these are the two. And the Zulu cultures are also a big problem. Because if we look at South Africa, for example, people seem to think it's black against white. But when the whites came there, which were the Dutch, the black people that lived there weren't black. They were the Khoikhoi, and the Khoikhoi were light brown. Whilst the Dutch were living there, the Zulus invaded South Africa. They didn't at first started to fight with the whites, but they did start to fight with the Khoi. They nearly got eradicated from the land. Now there is a fight in South Africa between the Zulu and the white farmer. I'm sorry, but the problem is the different cultures, because the Khoi and the whites could work together. They could live together. If we look at different cultures, and you're correct, Lord of Darkness, not every country is just one ethnicity. If we look at, for example, Syria had several ethnicities, but they had one greater culture. If we look at Saudi Arabia, I'm sorry, but yes, Saudi Arabia is an ethno-state. Yes, there are different ethnicities there, but they do not have the same rights as the predominant ethnicity. So yeah, Saudi Arabia still is an ethno-state. Hell, the fact that they are so nice...
Isn't Israel one as well?
Israel is trying to become one by expanding their control and pushing out the Palestinians.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not an ethno-state on ethnicity. It is more of a cultural cohesive state, because it's about being Jewish or not. If you're Jewish, you can stay. If you're black and a Jew, you can still stay. So black Germans and French are different ethnic group, even though they're both Germanic.
Yep.
The most thing is not ethnicity. The most powerful thing we need to align is culture. If we do not align culture, then people will fight, and we pretend that the fighting is based on line of ethnicity, but the fighting is never truly based on line of ethnicity. For example, the Second World War. I don't want to be rude, but Germany, England, and France are all three of them ethnic Germans. Well, not ethnic Germanic. No.
No, because Britain is largely non-Germanic. Not England, but Britain is largely non-Germanic.
How is Britain? I mean, the Scots...
The Celts?
The Celts were mostly driven out. The Britons, which were...
If you look at any genetic mapping...
Yeah, then you can still see that they're there, but they're not the majority.
No, I'm just saying, though, but that the native Celts, the Cornish, the Welsh, the various lots of Scots, because there was a huge influx to Scotland from Ireland, and then a huge influx from the Scottish back to Ireland, and all intermingled, but none of those is Germanic in origin.
I'm sorry, guys. I really have to pee for a second. I'll be right back. It's a terrible moment to leave you guys, because this is a good discussion. I'll be right back, though. You can go on amongst each other.
All right, yeah, let's go on. Let's talk about the fact that why do we always have to say that everybody's related to the Germans? What were the Germans doing? I identify as a Utah.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily the Germans, it's the Germanic people before Germany was even formed.
Yeah, but you see, even with France, the Franks were a Germanic people. But the Franks were only the little Paris area.
But how different?
Longest of time, the rest of France was Aquitaine and Burgundy and Provence, and they were separate political regions.
Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say, John, is like, how long do you have to be? So in my opinion, is that we're shaped and developed, blah, 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 from our culture, yada, 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 yada. Anyway, like food, altitude, water, that kind of stuff
environment, the landscape
really affects our genes, especially epigenetics. So at what point do we separate, say, like America from England? Like, yeah, I can trace my roots.
Absolutely.
But I don't feel connected to England at all. No offense. I'm just saying it's like...
I quite agree. And this thing about the English being Germanic, the highest proportion of Anglo-Saxon in Britain is 44%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
so I'm sorry, that is not German. That isn't even half German.
Germanic.
No, but you know what I mean. German, Germanic. It's only half. Even the genetic element that has a Germanic root isn't even half of our country.
Mm.
And
you don't really need to feel connected to it for the historical roots.
So you know, so we're English or Scottish.
DNA shapes and molds us, right? DNA shapes and molds us, just like our brain. So my brain and everything inside me is based off of my DNA, but my DNA has been in America for so long, I'm sure that it has been all scrambled up and everything. Where
I know those people in your family.
Yeah, how can I be considered European? How can I be considered European when my family has been here for like 400 years? I mean, I'm sure that our food alone, I mean, our food is disgusting and tainted with all sorts of shit. You know, I'm sure that we've developed a new species as Americans with, you know, the fluoride alone.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing.
An interesting point, yeah.
You know, and I completely agree. That's the thing. You know, it's like, it's this obsession with, oh, I'm Irish American, Italian American, African American. It's like, no, you're just an American.
I'm Dutch American.
Well, the thing is, once you start differentiating, you're basically saying, I'm not part of their culture.
Yeah.
And that in it.
I'm not part of their culture.
No, it means your culture.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like I'm not part of European culture. As a matter of fact, like
no, you're American.
I don't even feel like an American culture. And if anyone comes to Utah, they know the same thing, that Utah has its own special little culture.
Yeah, but you see, I've said that about parts of Britain as well.
Mm.
You know, that in countries, and we're much smaller than you are, have different pockets with their own variations.
Well, we've got Magog of Morskar in the chat. I feel honored in a way. Hi there, Magog.
Come join.
Well,
excuse me, I'm ignorant.
Well, he's a bigger YouTuber than I am. A lot bigger YouTuber than I am.
You see, I can say that about anybody.
Yeah, me too. Anyway,
with my 36 subs,
I've got 28.
The problem with any culture is, as soon as you create or as soon as you have a country and you allow different cultures within your borders, you will weaken your country. And this has nothing to do with ethnicity. This has only to do with culture. And this is my favorite point. I mean, maybe so evil, Gunny, though I don't think. Well, actually, no. Maybe Alicia agrees with you on this one.
Gunny.
But the Magog is scouting for Sargon. Yeah, that would be cool. No, but the thing is, oh, for fuck's sake, I wanted to say something. I'm all starstruck now. No, but the thing is, if we don't recognize the fact that culture is the main binding force of our society will fall. And that's how simple as it goes. Look at America now. How incredibly polarized America has become because of the way that the narrative is being driven. You are either against us, or you are for us.
Isn't that just basic in-group, out-group dichotomy?
That is basic in-group, out-group dichotomy. And if your society is based on that, you must fall.
Yeah, and that is a whole feminist SJW methodology. All about in-group and out-group, identification and othering and so forth.
Hey, that reminds me of a line of the Heideroosjes, which is from something else, but united we stand and divided we fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Lord of Darkness. You made a few good points, but culture is not an expression of genes. It simply isn't. If it were,
well.
explain to me Antifa.
That you just explained it. Okay, that's their cheat.
It's because they're a bourgeois bunch of lost souls.
But I'm sorry, if culture and ethnic heritage are
Okay,
connected, then there is no Antifa, there is no anarchism, there is none of socialism, because this is also from. And in all fairness, Antifa became the big thing it now is in the Germanic society of the Weimar Republic.
Yeah.
In the very same republic that created Hitler's Nazi party.
At the same time.
At the very same time.
now, there's new work in genetics and everything like that they're starting to see that there is a genetic marker for collectivism versus individualism. And this is what, I don't want to get into the ins and outs of it, but it seems like the cold countries, your Norway, Sweden, and Finland, those areas, they actually, even though they have more socialistic programs, they actually rank higher in the genome for individualism. And so I think that there might be some genetics and meatbag things that could have genetic markers, especially when you're talking about places that have to grow rice, that tend to be more collectivist, that eventually your genes would start expressing that, because when you grow rice, it's a group effort.
Absolutely.
To deny that having a collectivist mindset versus an individualist mindset is to almost deny our evolution, because our genes want to naturally express in a way that makes our next generation more likely to succeed, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there is probably a few little things inside of us that do make us.
Absolutely. All behavioral traits have a genetic component, and not wholly genetic, but partially, yeah.
Yeah, true, but that's because everything we do is partially genetic.
And we were social animals, and therefore there's a perpetual, if you like, struggle between the individual and the group, because an individual does not last very long in a prehistoric environment.
Therefore, we would like our societies to be individualistic with the safety of numbers.
Yeah. Or collective with the benefits of individualism.
Indeed. Which is a nuance within a culture. Hence, culture is the driving factor of societies that grow, and nuance is the driving factories in developing culture. It's difficult to put your finger on, because it's also easy to follow the narratives that are being presented. The left is saying, well, but you want a link, Magog? I don't have your Twitter, mate. I can invite you if you really want to, but I don't have your Twitter, so I can't send you a link.
Only if he doesn't conquer us.
Can you just post the link in the chat?
Don't worry. No, I can't post it because then everyone can come in. I don't know how many people will come in.
You know Ludicrous Leprechaun?
That's how I got here.
Oh, fuck it then. Okay, here we go.
You know Ludicrous Leprechaun?
Oh, that's not how.
Modwain.
Sorry, go on, yeah.
You know Ludicrous Leprechaun? He made a video and he called himself Ma Frog of Morscar.
Whenever I watch too many of Magog's videos, I'm always going, oh my Gog, instead of oh my God. I don't know why, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. We all like a good pun. Did you hear about the time when V did that? He posted a link to a hangout, and except for it was like thousands of people watching. They kept popping in, saying hi, and then disappearing again.
I know Crowd used to do that all the time. Crowd and Tea.
Not going to be too threatened by the 13 watching us this time, though.
Well, there's only 10 places, so yeah.
Yeah, but you got to consider of those 13, we might be 4 of them.
In all fairness, though, if we look at who is in the chat now, Lord of Darkness, if he really wants to join in, you know what? I don't mind. He's welcome. Nick Radio, he's been here many a time. No problem. Bikes and Bullets, relatively new. Link doesn't work. Bloody Hangout.
Yeah, I told you it didn't for me when I tried it earlier.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to try to Twitter you anyway then, if I can find you.
He's a commie fascist. And a filthy gypsy, apparently.
Who, me?
V.
Oh, V? A commie? No, he's not.
Evil Gunny's just typed V is a commie fascist.
No, he's not. He's not a commie. He's a Romanian, though, but he's not a commie. Actually, yeah. He's pretty much... Yeah, I'm working on a link, by the way. So how... I'm sorry, I have to... Morscar, can you link me your Twitter handle?
Oops.
So because I can't find you easily.
I have a beer crisis stepping away.
Man, if only I had my computer, it'd be fixed like this.
It's not a genuine invitation, as in you have to come, Nick, but you are welcome if you want to, mate.
Always.
But Morscar, can you send me your Twitter handle? But you know, Evil, I can understand why people call you a Nazi. It's not that I agree with them, but I can understand it because you do have very strong points. But I don't think you're a Nazi. That's not the same thing, though, is it? Okay, I am following him already, so I should be able to send you this one.
He did have that cool Hitler picture as his avatar for a while.
I bloody well made it, didn't I?
Nice, nice. My nigga.
My nigga, yeah.
Oh, you guys, when you say the N-word, I get so uncomfortable. We will die in America if we say that word. Please.
But again, that's a sign of how the culture is being oppressed. Because
that's fucking stupid.
What you're having is certain people are allowed to say certain words, and other people are not. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be rude. If I can tell you which words you are and are not to use, that basically means that you are less than me.
I
agree.
I agree. I just don't want to get attacked in the middle of the street and my head beaten in with a bat.
Hey, yeah. you didn't say it, we did.
Yes, rape.
Guilt by association.
But the thing is, I mean, people, I hate the whole, yeah, but you're a Nazi thing. Or, yeah, but you're a commie thing. I don't care about that.
Okay, so let me just say, it's more of a Utah thing. I don't know if you guys are, like, aware of the Mormon doctrine.
Nope.
And so it's a little bit...
They used to be very racist, didn't they?
Well, it wasn't that they were racist. It's just that a certain type of people were the mark of Cain, and they were the damned people. And so it's more of a heaven-hell type thing and not a slave owner thing in Utah.
Well, racism has many causes.
It's kind of like it's going beyond where they don't get to go to heaven and they're demons and shit.
Not me.
It's really dark. And so we tread lightly. And I must say, to defend myself in case anyone's listening, my great-great-great uncle was the prophet Kimball that said that Black people could hold the priesthood, so I'm absolved of all my sins.
Hallelujah.
Wait. Before we go on in this line, let it be known quite clearly that I speak as the royalty of Modwain.
Hey, Misha came out as royal today.
Well,
no, it's a in-joke between us, sorry.
But
I identify as a black Jew.
Oh, yeah. That's okay. But I still don't believe that there is something like inherited guilt or inherited guilt.
Modwain, this is why I'm adopting the term "eum" for evil white male, and I'm using it everywhere I can, because you negate a label used against you if you adopt it.
But you know the thing, the whole narrative. Yeah, but white people are evil. Okay, does that mean that we should stop sending money to countries that don't have any?
You just adopt the label. You say, "Yeah, I'm evil. I'm white, and I'm fine." Okay, and
yeah, you never hear of like, you know, Eddie Murphy or any of the black stand-up comedians caring whether or not they say nigger. Well, because they're niggers.
Chris Rock, very famous sketch.
Oh yeah.
There's black people, there's niggers, and niggers have got to go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, Crusader Soul, I am Viking royalty.
I'm glad nobody will ever watch this stream.
Well, I don't have a lot of watches, but I have a few.
No,
you'll get lost.
I was joking. I don't even remember when I followed you, but we must have streamed together, or else it wouldn't have happened.
I'm not sure if we ever actually streamed together.
Yeah, probably on Tom Sequitur's channel.
That is possible.
I have no idea who that is.
Then that's probably not the case. It could be that we started following each other based on, I don't know, Discord servers or whatever. Because I'm following you as well. But I can't remember that we've often talked.
No,
but you're more than welcome.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. I just thought I'd drop by and say hello.
Yeah, it's always nice.
Hello.
Especially to meet YouTube royalties like yourself.
Oh, bullshit. I've only got 30,000 followers. It's not like
only more than everyone here put together.
I think you've outclassed all of us, 10 times?
I'm just saying I'm no PewDiePie. Though I am just as sexy.
I have to admit that...
I'm modest.
Nobody's PewDiePie. Come on.
I'm modest.
PewDiePie isn't PewDiePie anymore either, to be honest. It's not that I don't like him, but yeah, he's
Oh, I love PewDiePie. I still watch his videos, like at least 1 or 2 a week.
Yeah, I sometimes watch them and then I'm like, okay, this is why I don't watch them.
I never watched him.
I like salty PewDiePie. Like, he's not really funny normally, but when he gets angry at something, he's fucking hilarious.
Then
that's
good.
so right.
That is true.
Salty PewDiePie is the best PewDiePie.
He should like have that as a section, salty PewDiePie, so that we know which ones to watch.
It's kind of funny that at a certain point in time, you're like, no, we have to be family friendly. Mate, don't. But now he doesn't care anymore, so that's good.
Yeah, YouTube's got a pain in the ass, you know. YouTube's being a pain in the ass, and now that there's been a shooting at the headquarters of YouTube, it's going to get worse.
Well,
there's been a shooting at the headquarters of YouTube?
Yes. There's a vegan woman, a vegan Iranian woman.
Oh, is she Iranian? I hadn't heard that detail.
Yeah. Of course,
so this is chalk it down to terrorism.
Well, they did actually chalk it down to terrorism because it was right-wing, white male NRA bashing. Sorry, not NRA bashing. NRA following and people who were angry because what's his face of InfoWars got a video. So it must have been a white man shooting up the place.
Until when they found out when they found out it was an Iranian woman wearing a headscarf, they were like, can we just ignore this happened?
This didn't happen. No, this
we just ignore this one.
and we can't understand because women need to kill
I'm going
anyone.
lover spat. I really am. Did you guys see that Six Hex Hammer or whatever, 666, he did a thing on it where she didn't have very many subs and she didn't have very many views. So he was calling bullshit that she was pissed at YouTube because she probably wasn't making any money anyway.
Yeah, but she totally was one of those people that thought she should be making a lot of money and views, because she even had a whole website and multiple channels linked to it. And on that website was like a huge, like, fucking blog about how much YouTube is screwing everybody and all this and that.
By providing a free service to them all. I'm guessing that's the logic.
Well, in all fairness, YouTube is throttling our traffic a little bit. It's difficult. I notice
they're losing money.
Well, they've always lost money. They've never made profit yet.
Exactly. It's hardly exploitation.
Oh no, yeah, no. I don't feel exploited. But I do know that, for example, I know of people who I know personally in a circle of 10 kilometers of where I am sitting that were once subscribed to me, that asked me, why are you no longer making videos? And I'm like, yeah, I do, not as often anymore. I try to do a stream a week and a video a week. Really? I haven't seen anything new from you for over 3 months. Yeah, then you might be unsubscribed from me. But I didn't unsubscribe. You just go check it. And then
YouTube has admitted in a video that they, even if you click the bell thing, their algorithm only sends alerts to the people they think will watch you. Of all your, instead of sending it to all your subscribers, they only send it to the ones.
A notification of anything.
I need to do more videos, but I've been very busy with my magical studies and masturbating furiously to pornography.
Yeah, well, I don't think we needed to know that. Thank you.
The internet of your world is an amazing, magical thing.
Well, to be honest, because of YouTube's, how do you call it, interesting approach to what topics do and do not fit on YouTube, Pornhub is actually growing.
Yeah, I given that I live in a realm that is a little bit less evolved than yours, I could say this. I used to have to pay peasants gold coins if I wanted to see two midgets fucking a horse.
Well, you can get videos of guns now on Pornhub too. I think it was Pornhub anyway.
A lot of YouTubers have actually started Pornhub channels.
Yeah, they have.
Just out of like spite for YouTube. It's hilarious.
It really is great. Anyway, too bad you're going, Alicia. Thank you very much for coming. It was fun to have you. Do you still want to
Alicia,
drop in a last few words, or?
Utah culture's the best. Just kidding. I'm lying. It's not true.
It's fine.
No, it's not the best. But anyway, thanks for having me. I promised today I would actually make dinner, so I feel guilty, so I need to go start it. So thank you guys. It was nice talking to all of you, and I hope to see you all again very soon.
I hope to see you next week. By the way, Square Peg, if you're here, you can join us next week too. The two of you are hilarious together.
Are they?
Oh, they will.
I haven't seen them together. I haven't seen them together. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Goodbye, moon-faced Aryan woman.
Moon-faced?
What? Thank you, I guess. That's wonderful. It's round. Yes. Okay.
That was a compliment.
I took it as a compliment, actually. Thank you.
It shows that you have either Scandinavian, Irish, or British bloodline.
Germanic, I'm guessing.
Stop it. Stop with the Germanic.
She's descended from an English king.
I am. Many kings. My bloodline is so
which
royal.
could have very much been Germanic. I'm, based on an English king.
I am. And it's
Plantagenets were not bloody Germans.
Take over. What I'm gonna do? I'm taking over in England. That's it. I'm gonna raise up an army and take back my damn country.
See, Kyle.
Well, I'll support you anyway. From the
All right, bye, guys.
You've got me in your pocket as well. Don't worry about that. I don't want to rule the country anyway.
Oh, damn right. It's too much hard work.
I'm going to conquer you all.
Yeah,
too
I'm
much
not sure.
genocide for me to rule a country, you know.
And Magog, and then what? So you rule us. You're going to get bored.
Yeah.
Well, then I move on to another dimension and conquer it.
So it's more a passing phase.
Yeah, you guys are like a stepping stone to a much better alternate dimension. Or at least I hope so.
Well, that's not going to be difficult. Everything must be better than this. Nah, that's unfair. We have a good time. We do. We have a good dimension.
I took one look at your world through my magical portal and was like, these people need to be conquered. What the fuck is Antifa? Fuck this. I'm done. I'm done. I'm conquering you.
But then you are inheriting Antifa.
No, I will destroy them.
Eradicate them from the face of the planet.
You're not the first to have to try it. I hope you're successful. Don't get me wrong.
I will have an army of men armed with bike locks.
Yeah, no. The guys with bike locks are Antifa.
If you want
bike locks to defeat bike locks, man.
Armed with the truth,
Fight bike locks with bike locks.
they'll run away.
You guys have tried that. Apparently, it's not working.
No,
Well,
not very
listen. In a way, I wished I was still Well, not still. I wished I were living in Texas, because then I could just walk around with my sword and my axe, and when they were pissy ant, I would show them why I carry a sword and an axe.
Yeah, but then
no,
you're
we
faced
can't
with a
be-
gun.
I can throw an axe.
Well, true.
You don't have to defeat Antifa. They're so incompetent, they will defeat themselves.
Well, but if you look at Germany, for example, in Hamburg, they really had a huge problem because of Antifa.
Yeah, only because the bloody police didn't turn up.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. We really need to return to the rule of law, I think.
Yeah, you're one of your historical figures, Hammurabi, had the right idea.
Well, yeah, he did. I have to agree with you on that.
Hammurabi's code: eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Well, it's not so much the fact that he wanted an eye for an eye, but the thing is, every crime needs to be punished, and it's the crime that decides your punishment, not your location within society that decides your punishment.
Oh God, can we please return to that?
Well, I'm not a favor of an eye for an eye as such, but yeah, that's the whole idea of laws set in stone. That's what the Western society was also based on when they were talking about the rule of law. The rule of law applies to everyone equally. Or at least
except these days, rich assholes get to go to rehab while other non-criminal drug offenders are good in jail.
Yeah, it's all about the money.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. We live in a class society. It's kind of funny. I saw a video. Oh, I nearly needed to cough there. I saw a video this week, I think a few days ago, of Muslims praying in Hyde Park in London. Mm-hmm. And Hyde Park is the park of free speech, so to speak. But more importantly, it's a Crown's domain. You're not allowed to pray in the Crown's domains.
Yeah, but laws don't apply to Muslims, apparently.
And that's the problem of society. We've got groups that we let get away with the most simple of things.
Not groups.
Well, okay, fair enough. People.
A group.
People. Let's not even say group, because not
all...
all...
we'll say a group. And we know what their identity is. And here's the thing. We know why.
Well, I don't know why.
Saudi gold.
You think?
Britain was bankrupt in the 1970s. We went to the IMF. We were poor. The sixth man of Europe. Things were shit. With a capital shit. And
this is when, what's her
the
face?
Arabs started to move in. The money moved in. And all of a sudden, Muslims can do no wrong. And we know how aggressively the Saudis and the Wahhabis, or what they call themselves in Saudi Arabia, promote their brand of Islam.
Which is a problem throughout the world, actually. Salafism, Wahhabism is the worst form.
And in Britain, they found a political class who sold their souls to the devil.
Talking about culture, huh?
It's kind of funny. I think it's yesterday or the day before that basically Saudi Arabia sent out a message saying that the Israelis and the Palestinians need to live together in peace in Israel, which is funny for two reasons. One, Israel
They hate the Jews.
Israel never has been recognized by Saudi Arabia, but now they recognize Saudi Arabia. And the second reason why I find it funny is, if you look in Saudi Arabia, there is no such thing as people living in peace together. I've always said I'm completely willing to allow as many mosques in my country as Saudi Arabia is allowing churches in theirs.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah.
Which basically.
On that note, I've got to get going. I just wanted to pop on and say hello.
Hello. Okay. Well, I mean, listen, Magog, if you want, I would love to latch on to your massive YouTube growth and following, and we could do something together one day.
Perhaps so, but I have to finish my studies at the academy first.
Fair point. Well, it would be more for me than for you, I guess. I mean, I would love to.
Yes. I'm always opening to doing fun things. I'm just very busy for the next 5 weeks, and then after that, things will be better.
Okay. Well, I'll keep in mind, and might send you a little shout out. And I hope you will see me again.
Yes. Well, I am subscribed to you, so the more you stream, the more likely it is I'll catch you online sometime.
Fair point. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for popping in.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me on for a few minutes. Goodbye, everybody, and ass rape.
Take care, Magog.
See you later, mate.
Bye.
No, that was fun. And now I don't know what I'm saying.
But yeah.
I totally lost my train of thought again.
Yeah, insanity will do that.
I'm old. That's it. I'm old.
Young lad.
You didn't look that old.
Yeah, that's because I don't look it, because I've got a good.
You've got small kids.
You're older beyond your years.
Told.
I'm sorry, guys. I could. Sorry. Smirkers, what did you say, mate?
I said so you're older than your years.
Oh, I feel it. Definitely. What did you say, John?
I'm just saying you've got a small kid. You shouldn't feel too old.
Yeah, I was a late bloomer.
In all the wrong directions, just like me.
Geschichte. I'm really happy that you want to join in. But considering the time, I usually try to stay around 2 hours. So we're going to end today.
Well, I can join the after stream.
Yeah.
You can join the after stream. That's obviously true.
If you don't mind talking to some idiots, well, me anyway. I'm an idiot.
And if you give me your Twitter handle, or you give me a way that I can reach you, I can invite you next time. So you can reach me on Twitter at Modwain, or if you have a way that I can reach you, let me know.
You can reach yourself anywhere on Modwain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If it's Modwain, it's probably me. No, not probably. If it's Modwain, it's me.
Twitter, Minds, whatever.
We're already in contact. I can reach you. Can you send me a direct message then? Because the name Me Geschichte is unknown to me. So then I can.
Isn't that my face in German?
No, Geschichte is story.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what your Twitter handle is, so I'm not able to send you a direct message. So if you can send me one, I know who you are. And if you have a specific topic you would like to address, we can always do that. I'm always fun for that. Having said all that, I already posted the Hangout link in the chat twice, which didn't work. I have no clue why. But other than that, Smirkus, how's the table going, mate?
Ben got, I'll tell you after stream, but pretty shortly Ben got fired and I'm looking at different work.
Oh.
That's the short of it.
That's the short of it. Already doesn't sound nice. Posted on Mines. Okay. Did you tag me on Mines, Geschichte? So that I know. I'm looking at Mines now. I'm really good. Jon, you have anything to say, by the way?
My brain hurts.
Yeah, then you shouldn't drink so much, mate.
No, it just hurts generally. The beer helps.
Oh, the beer helps. Okay.
Oh, that's the cure for your brain aching?
Yeah, that and sleep, not being conscious.
Oh, a buddy of mine did link me an article that I still want to make a video about the Dutch military and stuff. Just haven't found the time to do it, or the motivation, I should say, I guess.
Yeah, I really need to try and get more work done in videos, but at the moment I'm kind of stuck at one video per week.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. I'm really envious of people like Alicia who can just push out great video after great video, and you just think, how do you do that? It takes so long.
It does take some time indeed. So there is
like bringing up a kid, she's homeschooling another kid, you know, and it's like she's doing all these things and she's still knocking out these great videos. And I'm going, God damn it, I'm so jealous.
Jealous or envious?
Yes, well,
both. No, both. Fair is fair. Anyway, if people want to hang out after stream, let me know. I can give you an invite. And otherwise, well, there's always next time, and people are always welcome at my hangouts.
If you can get a word in.
Well,
I'm usually pretty quiet anyways, but
no, I know you are, Smirkus, but me and
I'm learning that if I just interrupt people at some point, then I'll get a turn eventually.
Well, I was listening to Jordan Peterson talking with Camille Paglia in a video today, and he was saying that his view is that it is actually male culture, that to get a turn, you have to earn it by forcing your way in.
Yeah, I'm not as quiet as I used to be, and Modwain can probably attest to that.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, if you have... there are two ways to make people talk. One is to force them, and the other is to invite them.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to invite them.
It's not the talking, it's the shutting them up.
Some people have a problem with that too. But then again,
guilty.
there are people who claim I have a problem with that too. So I'll not go into that one too much. Anyway.
Yeah, Marty always defended me saying like, well, that's a sign of a great man. He listens, and when he has something to say, he'll say something.
Everyone's not gone home already. That's the problem.
We are going to call it quits, though. I'm not going to respond to it here. We can do that after stream.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Thank you very much for the great stream. Thank you very much, people in the chat. I'm still somewhat chuffed that we had Magog over for a short time, which is... Lord knows it's hard to get Magog. Oh, Mafrog. Oh, that's you. Okay, fair enough. Ludicrous, if you want to join after stream as well.
I did invite him, mate.
You already did?
Tired.
Okay, fair enough.
He said maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Well, fair enough. I hope next time to see you all here. Peg, I really hope you will be there together with Alicia, because the last time the two of you were just hilarious. I'm going to call it quits now, so I'm going to say bye-bye to everyone. You don't see it, but I'm waving, and I'm stopping the broadcast.